at the Burlingame Museum of Pez Memorabilia, and I'm here with Gary. Gary, how does one have a museum about Pez dispensers?
Well, I've been a Pez collector for over 24 years, and we opened the museum 22 years ago. We had to put them somewhere, so this is my fault. And we now have an example of every Pez ever sold.
Now, first of all, for those that aren't familiar, Burlingame, explain where it is in reference to California.
So we're about 15 minutes south of San Francisco, about 5 minutes away from the San Francisco airport. A little suburb of Burlingame has been here for over 100 years. And this is where I grew up, this is where I live, so I walk to work. That's why the museum is in Burlingame.
So you started collecting Pez back when?
So it was around 1990. I was at an antique show and I saw somebody selling all sorts of things. I saw them selling Pez. And I said, who collects Pez? What a silly thing to collect. And that is why I collect Pez. It's a silly thing to collect.
How many Pez memorabilia items do you figure you have today?
So we have an example of every Pez ever sold, and it's a little over 1,000 different characters.
Wow.
Now the museum also has other memorabilia like paperwork and brochures and posters and signage, things like that. But yeah, over 1,000 different dispensers.
Do you have any affiliation with the people who create Pez?
No.
So,
not at all.
How do you know when they sell something new or they bring something new to the market?
So we do sell Pez for collectors. Our gift shop is open here. You can buy Pez, and so we buy our product directly from the company. So they tell us what's coming out, so we have everything on pre-order. So we get it pretty quick as soon as it comes out.
Gary, forgive me, I'm not aware of any other Pez museum in California, let alone outside. Are there others?
We're in the world's only Pez Museum.
Okay, I want to make sure you had, thank you. And in the world's only Pez Museum, you have the largest Pez dispenser in the world, correct?
Correct. We made this back in 2006. Myself and two of my friends built this. We submitted it to the Guinness Book of World Records. And it took about a year to build, about a year for the Guinness Book thing, and it appears in the 2008 book on page 200. And it still holds the record as the world's largest Pez dispensing machine. We also carry vintage Pez. So for example, if you want to really impress your friends, there's a 1958 Popeye Pez dispenser over there.
Oh yeah, I see it right here. Gary, we're in the museum, and before we get to exploring, can you tell me how Pez started?
Sure. So, to most people's surprise, Pez is not an American product.
Oh.
The company is based out of Austria. And the candy came first. Pez candy was introduced in 1927.
Wow.
The original flavor was peppermint. This is how you say peppermint in German. This is Pfefferminz. You don't have to try it. It's
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, when you abbreviate this German word for peppermint, you get P. The first dispenser came out in 1950, and it looked like the one the lady in the poster's holding. And yes, they look just like cigarette lighters.
Okay, yeah.
The original product design was kind of more of an adult product, kind of like a Tic Tac or an Altoid type item. Mm-hmm. And so they came up with a dispenser to make it fun to keep in your pocket. By 1958, they thought they could sell a lot more product if they put little heads on the top and brought out other fruity flavors. And they were right. So in 1958, they came out with the character.
Wow. Do we know the first character? Or?
We do. Oh. We have 3 examples of them.
Okay. The actual examples of the characters. Huh?
Well, as I said, we have an example of every Pez ever sold. They are all here. Whoa. So the first characters were Mickey Mouse, Casper the Friendly Ghost, and then back there on the blue stem we have Popeye the Sailor.
So that's part of why Popeye is such a collector's item you were saying earlier, right?
It's an those are the biggest cartoon stars of 1958. And then back there you'll see on the yellow stem that's Bullwinkle J. Moose.
Bullwinkle, yeah.
And for some odd reason they never made Rocky. They just made Bullwinkle.
What's the most valuable Pez out there on the market? Like the most coveted? Like,
Let me show you.
Oh, okay.
So right over here is a Pez dispenser made in 1972. Mm-hmm. This is called the Make-A-Face Pez dispenser. It's kind of like a Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah.
So you got a blank head, and these little pieces here are little eyes and ears and lips. You stick them in the head where you want, and you make your own character. And within 30 days of its introduction worldwide, they were all pulled off the market. The Pez company got very concerned about the choking hazard of the little parts. So very, very few of those were ever sold. As of today, that Pez is worth between $3,000 and $4,000. We have a customer that's a very talented artist, and if he wants a Pez they don't yet make, he will make it. So he has created his own little Pez characters, and then he makes them, and then he donates them to our museum.
Oh my goodness.
So he made the Lone Ranger and Tonto. They actually finally made Johnny Depp from Pirates of the Caribbean, but he made his about 5 years prior. The Pez company has made every U.S. president into a Pez dispenser. They haven't quite yet made Donald Trump, but they've made everybody else. And with the heads from the Pez dispensers, he made this piece of artwork that looks like Mount Rushmore, and he called it Mount Pezmore. Recently, they've come out with a lot of gift sets. So this is Elvis. This is the Orange County Choppers. There's Kiss.
Oh my goodness.
So we started collecting other classic toys that are 50 years old and still made today. So we have a selection of things like, there's the first Slinky, the first Mr. Potato Head set, Viewmasters, and then these three toys down here are all still at Toys R Us, but they're now 100 years old.
Oh my goodness.
Tinker Toys, the Erector set and Lincoln Logs, were all introduced around 1915.
Wow. And they're still being sold.
And they're still made today. And then our newest exhibit is our exhibit of banned toys.
Banned toys?
Toys that had to be pulled off the market for one reason or the other. Sometimes they were dangerous, or sometimes they were politically incorrect. 1951, a company came out with an atomic energy laboratory where it was designed to teach you all about atomic energy. And to do that, you had to have radioactive material. And so the toy over here actually contains 4 jars of radioactive material.
Oh my goodness.
Now, those are empty jars, so we're cool. But
I was just about to say, like, I'm staying over here.
Originally, it came with real radioactive material. This toy came with a working Geiger counter.
I see a bunch of other stuff up here that...
We have other banned toys. The one that most people are probably familiar with are lawn darts.
Those are banned? I didn't realize.
1988, U.S. government banned that as a toy. There were far too many people getting stabbed.
Well, we don't want to give it all away, but if you're interested in coming out here and checking out a museum that shows some toys that are banned, or some toys that give you candy, then make sure you make your way up to the
Burlingame Museum of Pez Memorabilia.
When are you open? When are you out?
Tuesday through Saturday, 10:30 to 5:30.
Awesome. Gary, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.